Max, every dad has that incredible story that just, you talk about being a dad, it just pops into mind. What is your favorite dad story?
My favorite dad story is this is a great one. It's my second daughter. She was she probably was 4 at the time, 3 or 4, and it was a classic like tea party thing, right? We're sitting around the little table and she had this stuffed animals and we had the tea and the honey and the milk, and it was just like every tea party you've ever seen, you know what I mean? Every kid does all the time, right? And we're sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, "This is really not like I'm totally in the moment. I'm like, this is time with my daughter. Like, I'm gonna sit here, sit here. Don't think you got to be somewhere else." And I'm like, "It's really nice." So I turned to her and I said, Mammy, I'm like, "Daddy's, Daddy's having a lot of fun. Daddy's having a really good time right now. I'm just trying to like make a moment with her. And she turns, her eyes get really big, and she's like, "Is it pretty fucking good, Daddy?" And I'm like, you can't laugh, right? Because then they got you and they know that there's something to it. I'm not gonna scold her. You know what I mean? Like, it's the cutest moment ever. I just took a breath. I was like, "Yeah, baby, it's pretty fucking good." He's like, it's exactly what it is. So it's one of those moments where it's like you're expecting kind of one thing and the other thing comes out of left field and it's just so perfect. You're giggling inside, but you can't quite, give it all out. So that is one of my absolute favorite stories. Just kids' tea party, and it's pretty fucking good.
How old was she? I gotta ask. How old?
She's 3, 4. Like when they were little. And they do that sometimes. They do that sometimes where they hear you say something like, it's a piece of shit, or some other thing, or knock it off, and all of a sudden it comes out of them in the perfect context at the perfect time. But it's just when it comes out of them, you're like, oh. And of course, me and my wife had a discussion after I told her. We were both giggling about it. And I was like, it's probably my fault. And she goes, that's probably my fault, like, because you're both letting stuff slide. You haven't realized yet. You got to edit a little more, when you're around the kids. So, but yeah, it's just a great one to show that, like, okay, maybe I'm not the awesome parent I thought, but still, it was a great little moment. So that's one of my absolute favorite stories.
Oh, that's awesome. I had some friends who did not take it well. After our kids were born, once they got to about 6, 9 months old, I started putting restrictions on language in the house because I've worked with kids for so many years over my lifetime, and I knew how quick they start picking things up. I was like, I actually had one friend, like, she stopped coming over because she's like, I'm an adult. I can say whatever I want, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, you're a young adult that you have that attitude, but... And that was the whole thing. She was a young adult, and she was like, well, I can say whatever I want now. I'm an adult. I don't have to be sensitive. It's like, you do at my house.
Yeah, well, you do. My little ones are going to pick that shit up. That's right? Why.
Oh, yeah. They pick that stuff up so quick. Wow, that's awesome. That may be one of the best tea party stories I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah. And especially you can picture it. Like, you're all set up. You're just like, oh, yeah, I'm being an awesome dad. You're patting yourself on the back. You're like, this is awesome. And then wham.
Oh, man.
Damn it.
I love it. Well, that was a great dad story, guys. And I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. In this episode of the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, I sat down with Max Shippee, an accomplished author, actor, and devoted father. We delve deep into the profound influence of narratives in fatherhood, in life, both our stories that we tell ourselves and those we impart to our children. We even explored some of the essence of masculinity and how storytelling has affected that. We unpack how these tales shape our perspectives in life and the way we go about doing everything we know. Far from mere storytelling, though, these narratives become the blueprints for our roles as dads, guiding us through the complexities of parenthood and our journeys of personal growth as men. Our brain processes things in the frame of story work, and sometimes we don't understand the impact of those stories we tell ourselves every day, how they're affecting us, how they're affecting our children, and how they shape our lives every moment of every decision of every day. It's a great conversation. Max and I had a great time recording this, guys. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to jump to our sponsors real quick, then we'll dive right into this. Gents, I sleep on MyPillow Giza sheets. I sleep on MyPillow. I have MyPillow body pillows. I have MyPillow towels. My wife even has MyPillow slippers. We're a MyPillow household, and I wouldn't recommend something to you that I don't use in my life every day. We're proud to have Mike Lindell and MyPillow as sponsors of the show. You go to mypillow.com and use promo code TFM. Super complicated, right? That's our parent company, The Fallible Man. Code TFM for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on anything over $75 just for our listeners. MyPillow is also running all kinds of promotions all the time that you can take great advantage of. I love MyPillow, guys. I love having them as a sponsor for this show. They make great American products for great Americans, and they help keep us on the air. So thank you in advance for shopping with MyPillow, supporting an American company, and supporting your favorite podcast so we can keep bringing you shows just like this one. Buckle in. This show with Max Shippee is a lot of fun, guys. We had a lot of fun recording it. I guarantee you're going to get a lot out of it. Let's get back to it. Welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, the unfiltered truth about being a dad. Real dads, real stories, unfiltered conversations about fatherhood. I'm your host, Brent Dowlen, and today my guest is author, actor, and father, Max Shippee. Max, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Kind of last minute notice, but this is a great way to spend a Tuesday for sure.
Right? When you get to do things you enjoy, it makes life a whole lot easier.
Sure does.
Now, Max, I was looking through your bio, and you have had a life, man. You have moved and lived and done things. So before we get rolling into this, give us a little context. I don't do big introductions. Who is Max Shippee?
Yeah. No, I grew up I'll start with you said where the appropriate, this is where I grew up. I grew up in Maine.
Okay.
That's where I'm originally from. And as far as how that ties back to dadhood, like we go back there every summer. My parents still have a place there, and it's, I grew up in the middle of the woods, half an hour from the Canadian border, fishing and hunting and making fires in the woods when you shouldn't be, and classic country boy stuff. And there's still a big part of me that wants my kids to have that. So for 2 weeks we go back to Maine in the summer, and we're very fortunate. My parents still have the place, and it's one of those things where we take advantage of it fully. And I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so all of us try to make it, so we overlap. So there's cousins, and there's all kinds of fun. So that's where I started. I started there, actually. And my mom is a creative. She's a dance teacher. My dad's an eye doctor, so he's like supports the creative, if you will. So I grew up with that little bit of creative spark, and that really stuck with me. And so much so that I went to college for music and theater. And then I bounced around quite a bit, like you mentioned. I went to DC for a minute. I did a show there. Came to LA, did a show here. Then went to Austin, Texas. And just funny enough, studied acupuncture for a hot minute. Then ended up through a friend, ended up in Bali, Indonesia for a minute to work at a scuba diving resort when I was young and didn't have any kids. That was before dad, for sure. That was literally a moment like before dadhood where I was like, I have no girlfriend. I have no kids. I'm 24. Like, yeah, I'm going to go do this thing, because when are you going to do it again? Then I came back and worked for quite a while, about 4 or 5 years in Vegas, on stage and on boats. I was at the Venetian rowing boats as a gondolier. I had an Italian accent in the whole 9 yards. Then I met my wife, who was from Los Angeles at the time. So I moved out here to Los Angeles. And since then, I've been pretty successful in the acting world. A lot of commercials. Had a run on a soap opera for a little while. I got to play the bad guy on The Young and the Restless for about 60 episodes. So that was super fun. And then during COVID, I decided, the acting thing wasn't hopping anymore. So I couldn't keep the creativity in. As you have podcasts, that's your creative outlet and the way you explore the world. Same thing for me is through story. So I had a story that, as Stephen King says, the good stories won't leave you alone, and this one wouldn't leave me alone. So I finally put it down to paper and wrote a book. Here, we'll do a little plug in there, right? So yeah, that's the 2 minutes or less version, I guess. Does that sound about right?
No, I love it. And you're so right about the opportunity to go to Bali. It's like, if you don't take those moments when you have them.
Yeah, right? Like, when's that going to happen? So yeah, I took it, and it was great. I was there for, I guess, 7-8 months or something like that. Learned how to scuba dive at the scuba diving resort, and just experienced another country, watched the sun come up on top of a volcano one day. You know what I mean? Just one of those things where, yeah, it was smart. A lot of us, when we're young and dumb, we just be like, doodle around. But yeah, I think I made a pretty good play of it. Probably should have spent more time thinking about the future, but what are you going to do about it now? So,
there's looking back, but it's kind of pointless most of the time. You look
Yeah,
back
it
for
is.
some
Can't
warm
change it.
memories every now and then, but that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so that's how I got here.
So how many
Yeah.
kids
And as
now?
far as the dad thing, I've been a dad now for not to not to keep going without the proper questions here,
No, you're fine.
um but first kid was 2006, so we're basically coming up on almost 20 years. So she just turned 19. So I have three kids. I have a girl, and a boy. So the oldest one is in college. She just finished an internship on a film. She's going to study cinematography. She's great behind the camera. She's wicked smart. My second one, she's about to be a senior. She just had a really good score on her ACT test, so she's super excited about applying for college now. And then my youngest is my son, and he's going to be a freshman in high school. And he's a great drummer. He's a great salsa dancer. He does partner dancing, salsa style. And he, just like in the past 2 months, is now taller than me. So
That's a big
there we go.
moment.
Yeah, and also, but I remind him, like, I can still knock you down, buddy. Like, just because you're taller, like, look at two. And all my kids are pretty great. We have really, really, really good relationship with our kids. From the very beginning, we did a lot of reading and just education and how we were brought up. And not that my wife or I, either of us, Alice and I, not that anything was like super wrong with how we were brought up. We both had pretty good childhoods, but there's always stuff you can do better. So we kind of took that to heart, and we always tried to choose connection over discipline, in the way that, like, oh, the reason they're acting up is because they're not connected probably. So let me connect with them, and then we can talk about or figure out what's up. And that seemed to work really, really well for us. So, yeah.
It's funny how many people seem to think that a dad who's trying to do better has to have had a problematic childhood. I have, my mom still lives with us. My dad passed a couple years ago,
Oh,
and
sorry.
I had a great childhood. Like I have
Yeah.
loving, dedicated parents who are active in my life, and so important now in my children's lives. I'm still trying to be a little bit better, and it's a high bar. Like I consider it a very high
Oh,
bar because I had
yeah.
great parents. It doesn't mean I don't
Totally.
try and be an even better parent, right?
Right.
You don't have to have
Right.
a traumatic childhood to
Right.
want to be the best dad you can be. And I think a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
people give that
actually,
up.
you almost have more of a responsibility if you had a good childhood to be able to, like, don't mess this up,
Right?
like, do at least that.
That bar's pretty high.
Right. You're like, okay, I'm above the bar just a little. Okay. We're good.
Right. I think
Anyway.
dads, parents in general, but especially dads, I don't think there's a real dad in the world who doesn't want his children to excel past him.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We
I think
will
that's what
kill
we all
ourselves to
want
do
for our
that.
kids. Yeah. I mean, that's I think part of the reason why we can get frustrated with our kids is that, especially my son sometimes, I mean, he works hard on the rest of it, but some days when he's gaming or whatever, and he's kind of taking a day off, I just sit there. I'm like, so much potential, buddy. You're just 14. Like, I think that's the thing that gets us frustrated. Actually, is like, we see that you could be so much better. You could be so much better, and once again, we're pretty good about all that kind of stuff, but still, if he's on there and chit chatting and whooping with his friends when he's trying to Minecraft something or whatever the heck he's doing, it's like, oh man, you should, even if you're out just practicing your wheelies on your bike, that seems like a better, use of your time. But but we only downtime, so we try to be good about that. But I totally hear you, where especially as a father, you want your kids to do better than you so much that sometimes that's the thing that actually makes you an annoying
Pain.
parent. Yeah, exactly.
An absolute pain.
Dude, Dad, stop. Like, whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
So,
well that's that experience that comes through,
yeah.
right? You've lived how old are you? Can I ask?
I'm 50. Yeah, I'm 50.
You're 50. You've lived 50
Yeah.
years. That means you have 50 years of insights and experience
Yeah.
compared to right, and that's the way it's meant to
Yeah.
work. But so at our ages, we're looking at our kids going, really, you should try this. Well, come on, let's do this. Let's not sit here and watch TV, and let's go do this.
Right.
Right.
Right. And like, you probably should say you're sorry. Like, I can see this from both sides, and I think you're off, but buddy. Yeah, those are the times too, with both my wife and I, and Dad especially. You're just like, yeah, you're just like, I see what's happening. I know how this is gonna go, and I'm trying to help you if you just listen. Like, oh my God. And then a week later, you're like, I knew it. I knew exactly how this is gonna play out, and here we are. Whether it's a test or a whatever, or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or friendship, or whatever the drama is of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I relate to that for sure, for sure. Although I have used one of the things I discovered, which was really, really useful. Not to give unsolicited advice on your show.
So
You're
that's
the
what my show
magic dad
is.
after all. You have the red hat. You should be giving the advice. But what I discovered somewhere along the line, I think with our oldest, who is just a sweetheart, is every so often I'd be like, hey, look, I have to dad right now. Like I have to be the dad. So can you just sit there for 5 minutes and let me dad? And she'd be like, okay. I'd be like, it's my job. It's what I have to do. And I know you're like, use going out as an example. Like you got to be home by 11 or midnight or whatever. And like, I know you're responsible. I know you're not crazy. I know your friends aren't crazy. I know, all this stuff. You're not doing drugs. You're not being all that. I know that. But if I still don't say, watch out for this, don't be stupid about that. You know what I mean? If I still don't say, don't do, then I'm not being a dad. I'm not doing my job. Like, I know you don't do all these things, but it is my job as the dad to say all the dad things. So just be patient. And I know a lot of this doesn't apply, but I still got to say it because I'm the dad, you know? And I use that every so often now where it's like, hey, look, just let me be a dad for a second. Okay, how much homework do you have? And when did you think you're going to do it? Because now you want to go out with your friends 2 nights, or you want to go see a movie. Like, I thought you had a big test. Or, oh yeah, okay. I'm like, I'm just being your dad. I'm not trying to be a jackass. And that seems to work pretty good because you you inevitably compare yourselves to other parents and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that seems to work. That seems to work. Because especially in the teenage years, you get that attitude they have. It just, oh, I mean, I get where it comes from. They're like pushing away from the nest. Like I get that there's some kind of natural thing there that's probably inherent in our DNA. That's like, I want to build my own life. I got to get away. So I'm going to be a jackass. So you don't miss me anymore, But man, some days you just like,
yeah. Oh, that's funny. I just released a parenting teenagers episode on my other show today.
Oh, really?
So
how old are your kids? I don't know how your kids
my youngest one will turn 11 this next week.
Oh, wow.
And the oldest one is 13.
Okay. So
going on 35. Oh. I have 20 years of working with teenagers. I used to be a youth minister. And so
really?
I've trained for this my whole life.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, just wait till they're teenagers. Like, nah, I'm good. This is the group they're actually interesting at this age group to me.
It's funny you say that because my wife taught English for years, more than a decade, years and years and years. And she loved high school. Like she taught high school. And for me, I love the little ones. Like the little ones, I spin them around, thrash, super fun. Teenagers, most of them I want to choke, most of them. But she loves teenagers. She totally gets them. So it was great to have kind of the bridge between the two where she's like, little kids, she's like, oh my God, they're just noise. I'm like, it's happy noise. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh my God, teenagers, I want to choke them. She's like, no, you got to sit with them. You got to listen. I'm like, oh, I got to listen. Okay. So we've learned that from each other. And yeah, the youth minister thing I'm sure helped for sure. But it's funny how you trade one set of weeds for another set of weeds. You're like, oh, we're out of the weeds. They're teenagers. You're like, no. There's a different set of weeds coming, and you still got to get through those too. So, well, congrats on having a couple good ones there and getting this far at least. I don't hate you yet. You're doing them right.
I was laughing about you telling your daughter, I got to be dad for a minute. One of the side effects of doing this particular show is my kids, my studio's in my house. My kids, my life is very front and center for them, right? One of the interesting side effects, this has actually opened a new level of conversation for my daughters.
Okay.
Because I can literally say, okay, girls, we're putting the dad hat down for a minute and we're doing that, right?
Right.
Or, all right, putting the dad hat back on.
Right.
We're gonna have a serious conversation, right? But they get the metaphor so well now after listening to me do the episodes and stuff that I can actually use it in our conversations now. Like, all right, we're putting on the fun hat. We're gonna go play for a little while.
You wait. They're gonna if they haven't already. I'm sure they'll roll their eyes at myself. I'm like, oh, you're gonna put on the hat. Like, we get it, Dad. Like it's so good.
Oh,
I laugh so much when I get attitude sometimes from them. It's hilarious. It's hysterical.
It's like the story you
Especially
told.
when they get stressed about something, you're just like, oh man. Like when they're little, it's like, it's a crayon, buddy. It's a crayon. You're gonna be okay, you know.
Mhm.
And then when they're older, it's some other thing. Their pants don't fit right or whatever it is. You're like, it's gonna be okay. Like you know. Anyway,
It's like the story you told at the beginning. You know, you're
Yeah.
not supposed to laugh when my daughter's pitch attitude. The dad in me is like, hold it together. The eternal 12-year-old in me is dying inside.
right, to just sling it right back.
I was like, oh, that's pretty good. All right, it's on now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is that for sure. My wife, especially, she's quicker than I am. And there's like, we just sit sometimes being like, if you want to go toe to toe like that, like we could wreck your life. We could wreck you in like 22 seconds. We could just like, but go ahead. Go ahead. You think you have the upper hand, and I'll just giggle inside and work on my restraint.
And you got the multiple levels of attitude. You got the I'm
Yes.
giving you attitude, then the subtle they're trying to tell you something. My oldest
Right.
gave me a book of dad jokes because I'm not that funny. When I started doing the show, she's
Yes.
like, here, Dad, you need this more than I do.
And you're like, yes, well done, well done, high five. Like, when they
Yeah.
get you, I love it when they give it back to me like that. I'm like, yes, it's so good. It's so good. Is that a metaphor? Is that a movement into the dad joke? We haven't done our dad.
Oh, we need to do our dad joke. You got a dad joke for us?
I got my favorite one is have you heard the joke about the skunk?
No.
It stinks. That's like one of my favorite go-tos. And the parallel one to that is, did you hear about the new vinyl record they made with the candy?
Mm-mm.
It's pretty sweet. Those are my two really quick go-tos. What about yours? You got a new one out of your book there or what?
I don't have a new one out. My favorite one I found since I started doing this, because now I look for really good dad jokes, right? My Instagram feed is filled with just dumb dad jokes at this point, because I those are the ones I find. I'm gonna follow that.
Yeah.
Right. What do you call it when Batman skips church?
Go ahead.
Christian Bale.
That's great.
Right?
That's great. That's really good. Yes, I'm all about that.
What's the shark's favorite saying?
Shark's favorite saying?
Mm-hmm.
No, what do you got?
Man overboard.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I was trying to figure out Jaws, bite, blood. I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like your brain's going, trying to figure out what it is.
Now, see, you're figuring out my evil plan. My evil plan is I do this show so I can sit around and look at dad jokes all day on the internet and call it work. I can write it off my taxes,
Right, exactly. Exactly. But now I'm wicked funny. Or at least I think I am.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I can tell how bad the joke is or how good the joke is by how hard my daughter rolls her eyes.
Yes. How many times they roll back in her head?
Yeah.
A couple times, right? She goes full exorcist. You're like, yes.
When she's like, Dad, just stop. I know it's a good joke. I got to stick with that one. Right.
Love it.
Max.
So wait, with all your podcasts, have you written a book yet? Like, have you done the book thing yet?
That's actually where my podcast started, my original podcast.
Oh, really?
I started writing a book back in 2020.
Okay.
And I got about 140 pages in.
Okay.
And started looking at self-publishing because it's like, well, nobody knows who I am. So, you know, I'm not going to get picked up by Random House or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I started looking at self-publishing and realized I needed to build an audience.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, how do I do that, right? So it was 2020. Everybody was getting Insta famous. So I was like, I'll jump on social media. So I created the handle and jumped on social media. And it took about 2 weeks for me to go, God, I hate social media. Like, this is the worst thing mankind has ever done.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to be able to climb this because I hate being on it at all.
Right. Hate everything about it.
And to this day, like, my social media accounts have really low followings because I'm bad at doing social media.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a whole separate skill for sure.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, what's a medium I'm going to be good at? And being a preacher's kid and a former minister, I started doing I started speaking in front of 200 plus people when I was 11 years old.
Yep.
You know, most people are terrified of public speaking. I am totally comfortable on the mic in front of thousands of people. I thrive on it.
I'm so parallel to that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'll let you finish your story. But my wife said that to me once, that like being the actor and, you know, the whole thing, same thing on stage. I mean, I was in dance recital since I was 4, you know, and Alice, my wife, she told me, she said, you know, Max, not everyone sees a stage and wants to get on it. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? That's the best thing ever. She goes, no, not for some people, you know? So I could totally relate to that. Like, oh yeah, it's no problem being in front of people at all. So sorry.
I was a stage manager in high school. Like I passed up an opportunity to go to Juilliard.
Oh, wow.
I was a stage manager all through high school, and I love the technical side of all of it. I don't even care if I'm on stage. I love the technical side behind everything. I like creating the illusion
and that part's super fun to hit a lighting cue or a music cue just right and it change the mood and it's like it's awesome. It's awesome
to create to make the audience actually buy what the actor is selling.
Right.
You have to have a good team.
You do. You absolutely. Yeah, I do. I help the middle school. The middle school does a musical every year, and since my son was in the musical, I started helping them because they're just overwhelmed teachers. And I was like, "Has anybody moved the lights for this show?" They're like, "Move the lights." I'm like, "Has anyone moved the lights ever?" They're like, "Not for us." I'm like, "Oh my god!" So climb on a ladder. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing. So I totally relate to the backstage part. It's super. It's very dad too. You know, like I'll go up on the ladder and the light and you know.
I actually got pulled into my first kids production this last fall. My daughters were in the children's theater production.
Awesome.
And I got there, and a friend of ours was the director, and I'm watching her scramble to try and figure out how to turn on the lights just so they can practice. And I'm realizing she doesn't have help. And it's like, okay, I was going to sit here in the back of the auditorium with my laptop and work.
Yep. Looks like you're working, but not like you thought you were.
Yeah. So I spent the next several weeks at practice, setting up lighting, moving lights, figuring out their system, because none of the teachers knew how to use their lighting or their audio system.
Of course.
It's like, okay.
You made the show that much better though, right?
Well, I did what I could. But they gave me a couple kids who wanted to be in the background, and so we got to work on some theory and how lights actually interact and enhance, and so you know that was fun. But yeah, I got pulled into that. I'll probably get pulled into it again this year. I have no doubt.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a wonderful gift to be able to give your kids and to be involved in a way where you're around them without telling them what to do, and you get to meet all their friends. Like that's what I liked about helping out, was that, you know, once they move from like when they're little to middle school into high school, like you don't hang out with their friends. They start to do their own thing a little bit more. You're not doing a play date with the other parents. You're kind of dropping them off, and you don't meet them all. And that's what I liked, is that by the end of the musical, I knew 50 kids pretty well, you know, and that's such a gift to yourself, you know, to be in that part of their lives. And they're like, oh, your dad's the one that does the thing, you know, and you notch up with the cool dad thing. And then they're not embarrassed about you, you know, when you drop them off, like, oh yeah, my dad does the lights, you know, as opposed to just drop me off down the block. You know, I don't want anyone to see you.
Yeah.
You know,
so, and you know the people awesome, they're spending time around.
Yeah, exactly. And they're more comfortable.
So dads listening, I'm telling you, it is so important that you know everybody that your children are spending time around. Their teachers, their friends. It is so important for you to know who these people are.
Yep.
And what they're about.
Yeah. I mean, that's why so many dads, I think, you know, we're talking about the theater side, but so many dads are coaches, or so many dads are that sort of thing, because you get to meet a lot of those kids and find out what they're really about. And you can see right away, like, okay, that kid, they still need parents around, and that kid's totally cool, you know, not to be judgy or whatever, but you get a feel for different kids and where they are in their maturity and that sort of thing. And you can kind of steer your own kid where you want them to go accordingly. Otherwise, you're like, oh yeah, little Johnny's fine. You're like, nope, he's the guy who keeps, you know, he's digging ditches and trying to eat worms, even though he's 13 or whatever it is, you know? So anyway, sorry, I think I interrupted you in the middle of your story there, because
they don't want to hear me. They've heard my stories.
Oh, the book. That's where you're talking about the book. So, yeah, you started with a book, and then you ended up building an audience with a podcast, because that's what you're better at. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never finished that book. but I started another
Oh,
one.
really?
So
And is the book like, was it a fiction thing? Was it like a dad thing? Was it
no,
like a
it's a more of a personal development focus.
Oh, okay.
My other show is primarily around relationships and personal development.
Okay, cool.
It's
Awesome.
how do I say it? It's about personal development, but relationships are a core to that because
Of course they are.
to me, yeah, fundamentally the relationships in your life have everything to do with whether you will develop as a person and
Yeah.
how you do with yourself. So it was
Yep.
leaning around there. I've taken a break from that one and I'm actually working on a relationship book that I'm
Okay, cool.
4 or 5 chapters into.
Awesome.
So
That's
mad
awesome.
respect, because you not only wrote a book, you wrote a fiction
Yeah.
book. So you had to create this world, which I am in
Yeah.
awe, like of authors who actually sit down and create their own entire universe and
Yeah.
all the love and depth it takes to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nonfiction to me seems a lot easier
Yeah,
than
it's
writing
funny you
good
say that
fiction.
because I've also on the side note here, I do it less now, but in 2009 I opened up a CrossFit gym, so I've fitness has been a part of my life. Therefore, personal development kind of falls right next to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can totally I've read more as much when some of the young guys come to the gym now and they're in their 20s, I'm like, I've forgotten more about this than you would will ever know, and my wife and I were very, like any marriage, very early in our marriage, we had a couple bumps and we found a really good marriage coach and therapist, and we still go every 2 weeks, even though we're great, so we think our relationship is really good because of that coaching and that constant attention to it,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you have kids, you forget about each other,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, like oh yeah, I'm, especially like as the first one goes off to college, you're like, oh, it's going to be just us in a bit. Like, we better make sure we get along. This is going to go
Yeah.
south quick. Um, so yeah, I totally understand that personal development part. It can be, it's funny because like my wife and I were just having this whole experience right now where what you put out is what you get back. Like that seems to be the theme of the past 4 or 5 months, where you know someone thinks that someone else is trying to take advantage of them, and they weren't. But now that you're acting like that, like it sure seems that way, and then it twists the whole situation. The other person's like, well, if you think that about me, then I might as well try. Like it's this weird thing where you really do how you see the world is how the world kicks it back at you. And that for sure applies to relationship. If you see your wife as someone who's supporting you and loving you and helping you get to your goals, then that's what they are. They literally, they will be that. And if you see someone who's like, oh, they're in my way, or they're trying to do this, then you're going to find every reason to make that right, to make yourself right. And it's funny, I'll blend that into like the story, the fiction thing, because the the your brain will look for a story even if it doesn't know what it is. It'll look for a reason. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you're like, the story you tell is that guy's a jackass. Well, that could be right. It could be that, their kid, they're running to the hospital. It could be, he just spilled coffee on his lap. It could be a million things. But even if your brain doesn't know the story, it will make something up just so it doesn't not have a story, because it's the way that it understands the world. And that's where I think a lot of the self-development and personal development is really key, is that it helps you to change your story, because once you change your story about how you're seeing the world, you can change your way in the world as well. So like, and relationship is the best way to do that. It's great you're doing that, because like it's literally other people are the reflection of who you're becoming. So that's a key to what you're putting out in your relationship. I assume relationship is both significant other and friends and family and the rest of it. I assume you get on both of those
Oh
things.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the immediate relationships in your life have so much of an impact
Mm.
on, and that is your spouse and your kids, right? It starts right there, those core fundamental family relationship, and expands, right? If you walked
Yeah.
into my house and started asking about our family, yeah, you have the immediate family that lives in my roof, which is my
Right.
wife, my kids, and my mom, and they
Right.
live here. But we also have two
Right.
or three friends that they show up unannounced. Their family, my kids call them uncle or aunt, and they're
That's
part
great.
of our lives, and right.
Yep.
And then you
That's great.
expand to that next level of friends, and but those
Yep.
people all significantly impact your journey. And if
Yeah.
those relationships aren't healthy, The rest of your life goes
Yep.
south real quick.
Yeah. No one does it alone.
No.
You know, no one does it alone. I love that Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about that. Someone was asking him about him being a self-made man, and he was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! I was not self-made." He's like, "From when I got to the U.S., like guys helped me at the gym, and guys got me jobs, and this guy was my first coach, and this." He's like, "I am not self-made. Like, yes, I wanted to go in a direction. I decided where I wanted to go, but there's a list of people that have helped me along the way, that have made me who I am, that have, and it's just such a great thing." He's one of the few people that, uh, I mean, he's had some drama in his life, of course. He had a kid with a maid or whatever. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he seems to not step away from his flaws and be like, yeah, this is who I am, and I'm still working on it. Like. And of course, I have, from when I was a kid, I have Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. So there's a little.
What meathead hasn't read that? Come on.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I read that when
He's
I was
in his
so
little
young.
he's in his little Speedo thing when he's lifting, and all the pictures. It's so good.
So Max,
Anyway.
let's talk about stories, because you started into
Sure.
stories, and
Yeah.
the stories we tell ourselves as fathers, and
Right.
that's where you wanted to go today, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, well, it's funny because you mentioned fiction and making up your own story, from your head, and of course, the funny thing about story in some ways, that we love the same story over and over. It's like, hey, here's the good guy, and he gets all the bad guys. You're like, yeah, okay, tell it again, but this time make him have spider powers. You're like, okay. So the good guy gets all the bad guys. You're like, yeah, okay. This time make it like he's a secret agent. You're like, okay, here's the good guy, and he gets all the bad guys. You're like, yeah, it's the same story over and over and over, just told differently. So on the one hand, you know, it is the same story, and that kind of gives you a wonderful structure to build, out fiction out within your own story out as well. Like, who's the hero of your story? Are you the hero of your day? Are you the victim of your day? Um, and but on the other hand, it's really fun to find out what makes this story interesting and unique, because you can literally tell the same story, and little kids love that. They love to know what's going to happen and that sort of thing. But it is fun to be like, wait, here's elements of this and elements of that, and how do they all tie together? One of the best in my acting world, I did a lot of improvisation, and they teach you how to really quickly. I did some musical improvisation, which is you literally do a musical. People give you a suggestion, and you perform a musical based on it. And my coach, Tara Copeland, she's amazing. And one of the great things about that I learned was that heroes versus villains. Heroes generally they will give up something they thought they wanted for the thing they really want. Right. So they'll give up the gold to save the girl so they get love. That's the classic thing, right? They're like, fine, I don't get the gold, and I go and I save the person, because that's really what you want, is to be the person that does that. And of course, and by doing that, yay, you get the gold anyway. That's always kind of the trick. So generally speaking, is that the hero will give up something they want, or in order to become a better person. It's about personal change usually, where a villain wants everything else to change around them, but not them. So they're like, yes, and I will control the world, and everyone will be just like this. No personal change at all. So I've used that so much in my own life, that piece of a hero story, if you will, to be like, okay, wait, am I trying to get other people to change, or is this an opportunity for me to grow somehow? To the point where even with my kids, like, you get anxious or nervous about, I mean, we don't, but like public speaking or something like that, something that, otherwise is technically safe, and we've coached this with our kids, that like, when you have that feeling, that means you're about to grow. As long as you're safe and it's not in a back alley somewhere, but you're nervous about giving a report, you're nervous about the basketball game, you're nervous about, whatever it is, meeting these new friends, like, that means you're about to grow. You're about to become something that you're not yet, and I found that true in the hero's journey. Like, that's where the torment comes from for the heroes. Like, they have to grow into a bigger version of themselves. And the villain is the opposite of that. They want everyone else to change, and then they'll be okay, which is a very interesting way of kind of framing everything from, my own personal journey to to politics to, when you think someone's motivated, like, oh, are they trying to change me? Okay, well, maybe I do have stuff to work at. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like, man, it seems like they just want the world to change around them and they're not willing to do anything else. And just like, okay, well, that's where they're going. Um, so yeah, I think that story is way more important in our lives than we realize. And oftentimes arguments, um, um, conflict, like conflict is kind of inevitable, like in our lives, right? Like people have different needs, but that doesn't mean it has to be like fighting or confrontation or um, there's a better word that's leaving me right now. And it has to do with the story that you're telling about the other person. You know what I mean? Like you're telling yourself a story about like, well, I know why they're doing this because no, 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 and you find out that, oh no, and I'm using trite examples. I get this, but like, the guy had a flat tire today, so he was in a bad mood. He doesn't hate you. It's just he had a bad day, or, you don't realize that, someone who's a little short with you is like, no, they were doing, and you think their kid's a little, using kids in his example on a dad show. Sorry, like you're like, oh, that guy's kid's a little weird. It's like, no, you don't realize that that kid's been struggling with dyslexia for the past 5 years, and like you don't realize the stories that people have. um, so I think that's where story is very important, especially as dads. Like, what are the stories we're telling about ourselves as a dad and how I'm doing? That can be very disempowering or empowering, depending. And then, of course, what are the stories you're telling about your kids, about your wife, about your relationships? Like you said, like what's the story you're telling? Like, or what stories are coming back to you as people come to you? People come to you when they have something that they need to work on, or they need to get off their chest, or they need help with. You're like, oh, I must have a good internal story going because people are coming to me to help level themselves up. But yeah, my book is hopefully interesting for that, because I'm trying to weave in a positive masculine image underneath this whole thing. And remind me, I'll send you a copy so you have a copy. I think you dig it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think you really dig it. Um, that in this land of, and I don't want to get, it's your show. I don't want to make anything like political, and it doesn't have to be, but there's a whole thing about toxic masculinity, which I think is accurate. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that men have gotten away with and done in the past that really needs to be examined. But at the same time, man, like there's some really great things about guys and about the divine masculine, if you will, that really helps the world. And my book is kind of an attempt to show what those things are through a wonderful fictional story where it's not hitting it on the head, where it's like, men are great and they're awesome all the time. It's like, not all the time. Like most of the time we're trying pretty hard. But my book is basically about to truncate it as small as possible. It's about a young black boy in the South in 1910, and he basically discovers he's the reincarnation of King Arthur. And so there's witches and werewolves and magic and some other stuff. And this is the first book of probably 3 or 4 to kind of take that journey. So it doesn't lean into the Arthur like theology or myth too hard. It's just kind of a little tap of your hat to that, and then they kind of have their own journey. But I hope that it's a way that we explore both the, when I say divine, I mean, you can, if you want to look at it in the godlike sense, that's fine. But like, I mean, divine, like what the highest positive aspects of masculinity are, and the divine feminine as well. And I'm hoping to find where those both things cross and they support each other. And I'm doing that, trying to do it through a fictional story. And once again, I'm saying that on a podcast and people will see that in it, hopefully, but it's not like I'm being like, and then this is why the guy is good. And this is why I'm not trying to be on the nose of it, because then you're like, you get the eye roll from your 13-year-old, too on the nose of it. So, anyway, that's a lot of talk about story. Anything like, did I overtalk that, or
no,
is that about?
No, and the whole masculinity conversation, being a men's coach and a men's podcaster, trust me, I've gone down that rabbit hole and then some, and probably a dozen plus episodes, and more than a few debates.
Because there is such a thing. Like, we can talk about the term if you want to, but like, there is a thing. Like, there have been men that have messed stuff up. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
say there hasn't at all. But at the same time, you're like, hold on, just a minute. We do some good stuff too. Like,
Right.
there's some really, really good things to help us balance our lives and to be a good dad. And we were just talking about a friend of ours who's like, this gal whose dad isn't present, and you're like, you can tell. I'm not judging, I'm not anything, but you can tell. You know,
Oh,
and
I'll judge
and
the
if you
hell
have
out of
a
it. I'm not
what's
that
that?
nice. I'm not that refined, that nice anymore. I'll judge the crap out of it.
Oh,
It's
right.
like I call it how I see it at this point. Um,
Yeah,
what a lot of
yeah.
people like to term as toxic masculinity, and my take on it is actually a lack of masculinity. If you look at
Mm,
most of the traits that people call toxic masculinity, what you'll
right.
find is insecure, in non-masculine men.
Interesting. That's a great way to think of it. There's an absence there.
There is.
That's a good take on it, because you're right. Like, if you're secure, if you're confident, if you're understanding, you're not going to have those toxic traits, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So what would you list as your positive or traits you should be having to keep toxic masculinity at bay? What would you say are your, like, what do you generally coach? I'm interested now. This is super fun.
I'm
Like, I'm
in
interested.
integrity is a big one for me.
Yeah. And when you say integrity, is that like matching thought, word, and deed, or is that
That is telling the truth, even if it costs your life, and living the truth, whatever it costs you.
right? Right.
When I was in the military, they explained integrity is, doing the right thing even when no one sees it,
Yep.
right? Even if you get away with it.
You don't.
Right?
Right.
I think discipline is incredibly important as a trait for a masculine man. You have to have discipline.
And when you say discipline, you mean to maintain integrity? Do you mean discipline in,
You have to have discipline
like,
for yourself, how
right,
you conduct yourself. Do you take care of yourself? Do you hold yourself accountable? Do you hold yourself to a higher level?
right,
Do you push yourself or just let it go?
right,
But I think one of the most underrated traits, because most of them I could list off, you've probably heard from a dozen other people, but I think one of
right.
the most undervalued one is humility.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
I'm with you.
they summed it up. I don't know if you ever I love The Witcher with Henry Cavill,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
right? One of the greatest scenes in that entire series
Okay.
is when Yasker drags him into the court big function or whatever, the queen,
Yep.
and he's
Yep.
sitting there on the side, and two nobles start arguing about they killed this monster, right? And she's like, well, we have a witcher right here, why don't you settle it? That man is the biggest badass in the room,
Right.
most dangerous man in that entire place.
Right.
And he very calmly, to save face for these two noblemen,
Right.
plays it down. It's just probably just a breed I've never seen before, my lord. Blah blah blah. And then he openly admits to, he's like, this from The Witcher who did this. He's like, truthfully, he had a blade to my neck, and I was trying not to shit myself,
Right.
right? And it's this utter, I don't need to blow it up. I don't need to escalate this. I know who I am, and that's enough. I don't have to prove it.
Yep.
I don't have to demonstrate it. I can let you have your illusions.
Right.
This is not worth the escalation, right?
Yeah.
And that humility comes with security in who you are.
Yeah. True.
And I
You're
think
right.
most men never develop that these days. That total security of, I know who I am. I know where I stand.
Right.
I don't need someone else's approval. I don't need somebody else to think big of me.
Yeah.
I'm good here. And with that
Yeah.
comes a humility.
Yeah. Some of us who grew up people pleasers, like, that's super, super, super tough one to get.
It is. It is. I have a friend who that's one of the biggest struggles I've watched him overcome over the last several years of his life is he is went
Yeah.
from a total people pleaser to he is now shifting, and he hasn't totally kicked it yet, but he has made
Right.
massive strides to
Yeah.
being secure and is like, no, I'm me, I'm good. I don't have to appease everybody. I can just
Yeah. Some of that I found just comes with age, like, I turned 50 in May, And something happened when you turn 50. You're just like, yeah, I don't have time for that crap anymore. Like, I just don't,
Right.
something about it. You're like, I'm at the halfway point at least, or damn close to it. And you're like, yeah, yeah, I don't need to impress anybody. I don't need to, blow it up. I don't need to, like, this is who I am at this point, and let's work with these. I'm not saying I'm not still trying to improve and the rest of it. You're always trying to on that thing, but that's good. I like he's kind of out of fashion now, but um um 12 Rules for Life, Peterson there.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of his rule number 4 is always tell the truth or at least don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that we really, really, really try to have in our family. And I love the fact that he's like, always tell the truth or at least don't lie, because how we coached our kids to do that was, sometimes there's stuff you can't say, like my daughter's walking around, she's kind of in a funky mood. I'm like, you okay? She's like, I'm fine. Okay. Like, well, that's actually not true. You're not fine. But what is true is that she can say, well, my friend kind of told me something about, her boyfriend. She's safe and all, but she said I couldn't talk to anybody about it, but I'm really thinking about it. It's like, okay, your friend asked you not to say anything. You can't say specifically what it is to me. I get that. I'll honor what go with your friend, but don't say you're fine and don't say they're fine. You can say like, yeah, I'm having trouble with this, but I really can't talk about it. Cool. You know what I mean? You told it, you didn't lie, that it was, so, and that has followed, that's one of the best, because that follows everything else. If you're telling the truth, then you have to have discipline about it, like like you're doing. And there's a certain humility in the truth that can't be denied as well. It's just a really, really, it's so important, because also truth is, if you have that, then your story is correct. If you're building if you're building an entire story about your relationship with someone or your marriage or your life, and it's all built on top of a lie, once someone discovers that lie, the whole thing comes apart. It just dissolves into nothing. So, that's a huge piece, the integrity and the truth piece. That's really good.
I think you're right on with the age thing, though, right? Because at 45, I don't have the drama. I don't have the room for the drama in my life. I'm not.
Yeah, you just don't.
And so
and
we change that story we're telling ourselves. It's like, oh, this matters. Does it? Right? At 45, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure it really does to me at this point. Right? So now I'm telling myself a totally different story that sometimes you have to make a few miles in life before you're comfortable telling yourself. Some people get it early on, and that's a huge blessing. But you hit certain ages and you're like, your story changes that you're telling yourself, because like, I have less time to screw around. I'm 30 now. I should get serious about my career and making money and building. Right. I don't have the time for the 20-year-old stuff anymore.
No, you don't. Because you're going somewhere, like you're just doing, you get better shit to do than to deal with all that, So that's good stuff, man. That's really good.
Becoming a dad changes that story big.
Oh yeah.
You get a huge perspective shift.
Huge. Like I remember, like we were very fortunate in that we had all our kids at home. So it was super, super, super cool. But man, when you hold that first one, you're just like, ooh, like, and that was really tricky for us, because for me anyway, I don't know if any of your listeners can relate to this, or maybe even you can, like I felt so much pressure now to produce, to like make sure everything was taken care of, that I really lost sight of my relationship with my wife for a while. It was like, and that's why, if I remember right, that's why we ended up shifting and getting into some couples counseling and therapy, is because like, I had neglected that. I'm like, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm justifying the whole thing. You know what I mean? To be like, this is what the guy does. Like, yeah, but you can't drop this other piece. You gotta keep the wife, that relationship alive as well. That was the big lesson through that. But yeah, I'm sure you can relate to that. When you have that kid, you're like, oh, it ain't about me anymore.
Gentlemen, if your relationship is not where you want it to be, I want you to know, I got you. Relationships take a lot of work and can fall on the back burner pretty easily as you're empire building in your life, just like Max mentioned just a few minutes ago. Men often suffer from damage in their relationship while they're trying to provide and build for their family. And it's usually the people that matter the most who suffer the most. Well, guys, if your relationships aren't moving at the rate you want them to in a good place, Reach out, schedule your free discovery call over at purposedrivenmen.com to learn the skills you need to connect deeply with the people that matter most when you're doing this fall for anyways. I know you don't want them to fall through the cracks. You don't want them to fall through the cracks. So let's fix those things that matter in your life. Let's get back to the show.
It really isn't, you know? So, and that's myself. I mean, most men I talk to, you know, it's like, we'd be happy living in as a hermit on the side of a mountain, you know? I don't need all this stuff, you know? And most of us are like, yeah, that'd be cool. Give me a knife and let me go hunt down some bears and stuff, you know? But it sure is nice to be able to provide a bunch of stuff for your family, you know?
My daughter and I laughed about it the other day because she was looking at something my wife had shouldered, and it was a meme or something. It was basically a still building. It was a men's perfect house, and it was like a garage and a shop and a gym with a bed in the corner and a small bathroom and kitchen. And my daughter's like, no. I was like, yep, that's me right there. If it wasn't for your mom, that's me right there.
Right. Exactly. That's perfect, actually. A gym, some kind of workshop, you know what I mean?
Right.
Bed in the corner.
Yep.
Fine. Yep. Good. And a barbecue. There we go. We're good.
I don't even have to have like a full enclosed bathroom, just like a, you know, corner shower head where I can stand in the corner where it drains. I'm good.
Exactly. We're good to go. We're good to go. It's so true. So true.
Women miss that. We build this for them. This is not for us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They don't care about this at all. You know, we care about, look, I welded a lawnmower onto a set of wheels and made a go-kart. Check it out. You know, that's what we're into. It's one of the things I'm glad I didn't learn how to weld as a kid. I would have taken apart lawnmowers and welded engines to everything I could find. Oh God. You know.
Anyway. I learned welding, but I was working on a ranch at the time, so
you put it to use.
It's a lot more practical.
I did a lot of woodworking as a kid. Helped out a lot with carpentry stuff, so was on the wood side, but never got to the welding. Like I said, it's probably a good thing I didn't. Jeez. Anyway,
Max, let me ask you. Let's point this in a direction here.
Sure.
What is the story we should create for our kids to help them grow?
That's really good. You know, I think you've already built it with what you're just talking about. I would grab a couple of those things for sure. Like, your story should be based in truth, but you should also this is good. You should be reaching, right? Like, what's the thing about being happy but not satisfied? There's some terminology there where you're like, you can be happy with the progress you've made, but not satisfied, and that you still want to go make some more progress tomorrow. The story that our kids should be telling is something about that, about you should have a vision, a goal. It's funny because goals can be tricky, because if you don't get your goal, like, you can feel like you're not enough, or, you know, that sort of thing. So sometimes I like vision better. I like goal better sometimes, because it's usually a very grounded thing where, you know, I can play my scales this fast or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Or I made this amount of money, or we won the championship. Like, I like those because they tend to be very firm and grounded. Over vision, because vision can sometimes be, you know, I want to be the best this. Well, what are you going to measure that by? You need some metrics, you know? But I would say for the kids, the overall thing I think was try to be really good at something. And it actually almost doesn't matter what that is. It can be Rubik's Cube. It can be volleyball. It can be guitar. It can be, I've read more books than anyone I know. It can be a card trick. It can be anything, because a great example is my daughter, in that she's a really good archer. She did archery. At one point, I think her junior year, she was like 5th in the nation. So she was really, really good. And they're shooting out at like 70 meters, you know, so they're putting them on 70 meters, they're putting them on a dot, you know. And the cool thing about that is that, I mean, she doesn't do it anymore. Like, she literally, her senior year, she was like, yeah, I'm not going to go to, like, there's no such thing really as a professional archer. Like, I guess I got, but all the tools she learned through archery, as far as discipline, as far as working at something. It's archery and sailing, I think, are the two best metaphors for life, because with archery, you do all the prep work, you pull it back, you aim it just right, and then you let go. Like, you literally let go, and you're like, I've done all I can, and now I just have the arrow's going to go where it's going to go, which I think is a great metaphor for life. You got to aim everything, set it all up, and then you got to let it go. If you used to be a pastor, you get it. You let go and let God. You can see it that way, or you can see it as like, I can only control so much. So that's a great metaphor. Sailing's a similar thing in that, when I don't know if you've sailed much, but I used to as a kid a little bit here and there on lakes and stuff. You can never quite go where you want to go, because you got to adjust for the wind and it's good to know that, like, oh, I can get there. I just got to go left a little bit, and I got to turn, I got to go right, and I got to, where the wind's coming from and where's the current, and there's a lot of factors at play. Yeah, but I would say the story we should be giving our kids is something along those lines. Like, what are you aiming at? Like, are you not aiming right now? Do you even realize you're not aiming? Like, how are you prepping to be better at what you want to be better at? And where's that going to lead you? And I think the most challenging thing for kids is it's hard for them to see the future. They're very, very present, which is wonderful about them. But yeah, because that's what we see as parents and dads. Whatever, it's like, girl, you're wasting time. You should be heading this direction. But that's good. I should have a better answer for that. Like, I would say the story that we should have, or we should want our kids to have, is to move towards something with integrity. I would say that's kind of off the cuff would be the closest thing. Although now you watch, in an hour, I'm going to text you something else. You'll be like, oh, I got it. This is even better, because that's how my brain works. You think of it on the car ride home. You're like, oh, damn it. That was a perfect thing.
I think everybody's brain about works that way. No,
Yeah,
I was really curious on the take, because I did an interview on my other show with a story work coach.
Okay.
Which to me, I didn't even heard of that. I didn't know it was a thing.
Right.
It's like I didn't know hypnosis was a thing until I actually talked to a hypnotherapist on my show one time. I'm like,
Right.
Really? I thought they just made this shit up from movies. That's like,
right.
I had no idea.
Okay. That's awesome.
But I never put stock in the value of the stories we tell ourselves as people, the stories we tell our kids. My brain conceptualized things in stories, and I knew that. I know that's the way we understand the world.
Right.
I never realized how critical was the story we tell ourselves. And then by transit, how the stories we tell our children about themselves as we're raising them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think we always understand as dads some of the things we say to our kids. Right. You're telling them a story that they now believe about themselves. Yeah. You have to be really, really careful on that.
Yeah. And I think even more so than moms. I think there's something about the dad energy that is very like you said, integrity and truth. So, it's a dad podcast. We can kind of say this, but sometimes mom's just being mom, or mom's gonna change, or she's angry now, but she'll be better later. But if your dad says something, like, there's a certain groundedness, truth, like you said, where exactly that. If a dad tells a kid you're gonna be all right, they're like, okay, well, dad said that, so it's gonna be all right.
Yep.
But if dad's like, hey, you're a jackass, then it can sink in there if you're not careful, or, yeah, there's truth to that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the I've guested on several podcasts, talking about the difference between moms and dads, and we need both. They're important. They're both equally important. The role of dad frequently in the modern era gets dialed down, the value of it, the importance of it. But there is something that, moms bring stuff to the table that dads never could.
Totally.
But the same is true. Dads bring things to the table that mom never can.
Yeah.
Like you said, your mom will be like, oh, it's okay. And you're like, yeah, but you always think I'm okay. You always love me. Dad's like, it's going to be okay. And you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be okay. right?
There's something about that. Something about it. The one I loved about the moms and dads and how they were different was some study came out, which of course I had to hold up and show my wife, is that the bedtime routine,
Mm-hmm.
because for the dads, the bedtime routine tends to be throw the kids around the bedroom as much as possible, thrash them around, wrestle them down, and then they go to sleep. And the mom routine tends to be let's calm down, let's read a book, let's sit, you know what I mean? Like tends to be that way. And the study came out that was like both work. Like all that wrestling does actually help peak hormones and and kind of burn off the extra energy of the day, and actually does help them to calm down. So when I'm like, see, it does work. Like it does work, because so many times I'm sure you've done that same thing. She come, I thought you're putting them to bed. I'm like, I am. She's like, you're wrestling. I'm like, yeah, that's how you put them to bed. You wrestle them,
We've
But
had
both
nice to
things
go
are
both
valuable.
ways.
Yeah, both things are valuable. Both things. Sometimes you need to snuggle, and sometimes you need to and get in there and get the juice out. So yeah, there's value to both. That's good. It's really good. I think that's the danger is when you think it. I mean, that's with anything, right? Is when you think it has to be only one way.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to be like this. It's like, and I'm not saying there's not better ways to do things and worse ways to do things, but I can get to the airport by taking the freeway. And I can get to the airport by taking surface streets. And it might take a little longer, but I get to see other stuff. And you know what I mean? It depends on what we're solving for. Are you just trying to get there as fast as you can, or are you trying to calm down a little bit and like enjoy the ride a little, So look at all the metaphors we're coming up with. It's
Right?
great.
Dads are good at metaphors. It's a
We're really good at them. Almost as good as dad jokes. Almost. As good. Almost.
Max, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
As far as the book goes, it's all Moonshine, of course, is the title of the book. Path of the Raven, if you want to look that up. And all my social is under Read Moonshine. All the socials are under that. So if you want to kind of look it up that way, I have multiple Instagram accounts. One that I tend to be a little more active on is Making Max. I kind of came up with that name because I'm trying to always remake myself. So I thought that was kind of clever. But yeah, anything about the book is Read Moonshine, and Making Max is another one that I have, kind of my personal one. But thank you for having me on today. This has been super, super fun. Like I said, thanks for doing it on short notice. And, it'd be great to be back when I get the next one. I can be a little bit more prepared and be like, oh yeah, I have a better answer for all these questions now. I'll be a little bit more clued in. So, and thanks for doing this for dads. It's really important that dads have a place to go to get advice or listen and kind of explore what it means to be that positive masculine. And thank you for giving me a couple of things to think about as well, like having the toxic masculinity being an absence of masculinity. I really like that idea. As well as your quick 3 take on integrity, discipline, and humility. That's good stuff. So thank you for letting me learn from you today too. It's really good. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for hanging out. And hey, we can improvise, right? I'm a theater kid too, so we'll just improv that out and make the show work.
We can riff it. We can riff all day,
Guys, we'll have Max's contact information, of course, in the show notes, in the podcast description, YouTube description, wherever you're joining us for this show today. Max, it's your platform. What is the most important thing you want dads to hear right now?
It's so you can do that now. Okay, so when I'm writing and when I'm one of the things a little note that I go by for myself is tears are truth, right? So when tears come, when emotion comes, that's actually truth that's happening. So that's truth in sadness, in happiness, in all the things, right? So when you ask me what dads want to hear, it gets me going because like there's truth, hopefully, in what I'm going to say. And what that is like you don't have to get it right. You just have to be there. That's really it. Like I think of all the stress of like, what should I say? What should I do? It's like just be there. That's all you got to do. Like so many times you just got to give them a hug. Just be there. That's it. It's so simple, right? It's just your presence is what they want. More than your advice, more than your more than your advice, more than your dad jokes. You know what I mean? They just want your presence. That's what they want more than anything. So yeah, that's a weird finish. You're welcome for that.
I like
Jesus.
Guys, thanks for joining us today on the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, a community of dads just navigating life's challenges together. Until next time, laugh, learn, and live the dad life.